Good to evil, lawful to chaotic, everybody has seen this alignment chart at one point or another. It's pretty simplistic, and while not a good way to define someone's morality in real life, when it comes to describing the morality of characters from TV shows, movies, or video games, it's good enough to get the idea across. Now that Invincible Season 3 has come to a close, I wanted to rank every character important to the plot based on their position on this alignment chart. I also randomly sorted the list so it wouldn't go over all the heroes who are good and then all the villains who are bad. It'll be a fresh take for every character. I also didn't do this alone. From the kindness of my heart, I graciously decided to also invite Time Pizza along to—
What do you mean, invite me? This video was my idea, by the way.
Because clearly, me and him are among the most educated and profound philosophical and moral scholars of our time.
I mean, does being an assassin make you a bad person?
Yeah. Like, no, you're out killing people.
Rather profound if I do say so myself. Clearly me and him would beat Socrates and Plato in a battle of wits or hands. He has a video of us making the list on his channel. Be sure to check that out. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Machine Head is the classic mafia boss archetype villain. He plays wild though. He went from prisoner to leader of the order in just a few days, and he swallowed a vocoder, and he winds up in the chaotic evil category. Samantha Wilkins tries to care about her daughter. She's so put off by the fact that she's a superhero that she can't really form a proper emotional bond with her. She's definitely not as bad as her husband, but she isn't really a great person either. Angstrom Levy is completely out of his mind. He's so incredibly insane, and yet that still can't excuse how evil his acts have been. He's trying to kill an innocent man and his family, and even if he believes he's doing it to stop a greater threat, he brought a bunch of supervillains to that world. Every action he takes is comically evil. There's nothing else to say about the guy. The Immortal was definitely a good person at one point, but from what we've seen of him on the show, he's kind of developed into a self-serving person, and not necessarily in an evil way. When the original Guardians of the Globe are introduced, the Immortal is the only one to kill a guy. And he doesn't do it because of some moral outrage at what the villain is doing, he does it because it's convenient. He's just fed up and has somewhere else to be. And this perfectly sets up what this character would eventually become. Even though he is one of the strongest superheroes on the planet and could be helping a lot, he's more concerned about his image and being the leader of the Guardians of the Globe. But he's the first to retire and quit when shit hits the fan. We also can't ignore that the changes in his character now are what lead to him being an evil dictator hundreds of years in the future. He's self-centered enough to be true neutral at this point. Shapesmith, even though he's an adult, is still mentally pretty young. It seems as though he's a good superhero. He would probably follow all the rules if he understood them. Every bad thing he does can be attributed to stupidity, not malice. Shapesmith is solidly chaotic good. Powerplex isn't as complex as people say he is. He tries to maintain a shred of morality when he's first introduced, but we can't ignore how quickly that all goes out the window. He's maniacal. He wants nothing more than to kill Invincible. And he doesn't want to hurt anybody else at first, but once he realizes people aren't going to just let him kill a superhero, he gets pretty wild and ends up getting his entire family killed. He's an irredeemable villain all around. He can't keep getting away with this. Debbie is the goat of Invincible. She single-handedly stopped the Earth from being taken over by raising her son right. No matter what she goes through, and of all the characters in the show without superpowers, she goes through the most, she is still there to support her son. And she's even there to support Oliver. She's doing her best as well when you consider the unique challenge that raising Oliver poses. She's one of the best characters in the show from a moral perspective. There are two Pauls in the show, Multi-Paul and Normal Paul. Paul is just a normal guy. In fact, he's so normal, it's a little bit annoying. He wears a suit, he works in real estate, I bet he likes Coke Zero, Pringles, and the Yankees too. Normal Paul is definitely the better of the two. He's a supportive boyfriend to Debbie even after everything that's happened to her, and he's a good role model for Oliver. He's definitely out of his depth, but he's trying his best. And he's a good guy all around. It's easy to forget just how catastrophic this guy's plans are because of how goofy he is. The last time he got up to something, almost every superhero was captured and tens of millions of people almost died. He intends to wipe out humanity, or at least human society as we know it. He's basically the show's version of the Unabomber, but on like a much larger scale. Very chaotic evil. The Mauler twins are interesting. They're always cracking jokes and smiling, unless they're actually in serious danger. They kill each other whenever they figure out which one is the original and which one is the clone, but they both know that the original has been dead for a very long time. They don't value human life at all, and everything is a game to them. They're smart, they're evil, they're insane, but above all else, they do not deserve their chicken pot pie on Thursdays. Of the villains on this list, they're among the most chaotic. Omni-Man is tricky. He's done a lot of evil things that are just unforgivable, but he's also reflected on his time serving the Viltrum Empire and regrets it. He's willing to accept his execution because he knows he deserves to die for what he's done. And after his life is saved, he's willing to join the effort against the Viltrum Empire. But even though people do change, he's not redeemed himself quite yet. Really, the only reason he regrets what he did is because it affected his relationship with his wife and his son. He still has the capacity for evil and hasn't shown that he's changed yet. Still, he's not nearly as evil as he was in Season 1. I'm gonna say he's lawful evil, getting closer to neutral. There isn't really much to say about Mr. Liu. He is the strict leader of a massive criminal organization, and he's willing to kill people to get what he wants, even if it's not all that serious. Darkwing is perhaps the most lawful character in the series. He's by no means good, but he has a strict moral code and abides by it. That moral code being, if anybody commits a crime no matter how minor, they have to die. He's clearly insane in Season 2, and after being rehabilitated, he's the most by-the-books hero on the Guardians of the Globe. Lawful neutral all the way. Titan may seem complex at first, but his ideals boil down to, I look out for me and my family first. In terms of crime bosses, he's definitely more moral than average, but that doesn't mean he's good. He's actively trying to improve his community, but he's definitely killing innocent people to maintain his way of life. It's the cost of doing business to him. Unless you're somebody he really cares about, you can't really trust him. He's pretty close to true neutral, but he leans towards evil. Alan is a fun character, the global defender who grew up surrounded by war, so he doesn't have any of the same moral restrictions as Invincible. But still, the two have a lot in common, most notably a sense of purpose in saving the universe from a greater evil. Alan is chaotic, but good. Bulletproof annoys me. I hope they end up expanding his character later on, but for now, all we really know about him is that he likes to talk shit about his coworkers. I think we've all had that one coworker while working fast food or retail. When we see they're closing with us on the schedule, we just weep. It's very apparent that he doesn't go all out or even really try. He's not willing to lay down his life or get roughed up like a lot of the other heroes are. He's not an evil guy, just a bad teammate. I'd say he's pretty neutral, leaning towards chaotic. Duplicate is a lot like her husband, meaning although she isn't necessarily a bad person, she is self-centered. She's convinced herself that she deserves a retirement at the ripe old age of 19 after a month-long vacation. You know, come to think of it, maybe the only reason the Immortal and Duplicate are getting worse is because they're bad for each other.
I could have easily told you that. One of them is like 19 and the other one's basically 5,000 years old.
Yeah, fair point. She is painfully unaware of the fact that other people give just as much as she does, and usually more, and that makes her unbearable. But she's not evil. I already know what every single comment about this character is going to be, so let me address it now. We are only going based off events that have happened in the show so far. I know a lot of guys who thirst after her, but unfortunately for them, she isn't really into full-blooded humans.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure. When she talks to Invincible, it's pretty clear that she thinks the Viltrum Empire is a good thing for Earth, but it's an ideal that she's willing to force onto people and kill anyone who disagrees with her indiscriminately. What she says does sound promising. I know a lot of people who think the Viltrum Empire isn't all that bad, and it wouldn't be bad for Earth to join it. But keep in mind, Viltrumites are eugenicists. They would kill millions of weak and disabled people. The Viltrum Empire and those associated with it are lawful evil. But she's the only character so far who has expressed that they think it is good. Of the Viltrumites we've met so far, Anissa is the least evil. Keep in mind the bar is like, so low. Usually when a Viltrumite comes to Earth, they kill a bunch of people. So, 0 9/11s versus a bunch of 9/11s, you know. Thetis is good, but I don't think he's lawful good. He's definitely a very chaotic presence, even if it doesn't seem like it. He's in politics and the leader of the coalition of planets, but nobody is aware of the fact that he's a Viltrumite. He unplugs Alan's life support, risking his life for the chance of making a stronger warrior to defend the universe, and also because he needed to charge his Nintendo Switch. His motivations and reasoning are good, but he's definitely a little crazy. Rick and Will are pretty normal college kids with good hearts. They are supportive of their friends and just want to lead good lives. Rick, with his newfound abilities, is able to save lives, and while I don't think he'll make a career out of it, he will definitely never use it for evil. These two are lawful good. Nothing, and I mean nothing, matters more to Donald than saving lives. He's died over 30 times saving lives and is willing to die many more times. He takes on a far heavier burden than most could bear, but it's all for the good of humanity. He's also not willing to play games that risk other people's lives, which a lot of others like him are. Whoever thought Bobby Hill would turn out to be such a good guy? That kid is right, Hank. There's not a single bad bone in his body. Well, bad metal structure thing. Cecil is a lot like Donald, but there are some key differences. As the shot caller, Cecil has to make calls where lives are risked, and he has grown accustomed to it. That being said, he's always angry at the loss of a single life, and will always pick the option that saves the most amount of lives. He does not pick favorites. How well he knows you has no bearing on his decision. He's tough but fair, willing to work with very unsavory characters to save the world. He crosses lines, but that's his job. He hasn't lost a sense of what he's fighting for. He's solidly chaotic good. Kid Omni-Man is, well, a kid. He means well, but he does reckless things and makes mistakes. He initially has very little regard for other human life, but as he is taught and matures and learns what the world is really like, it seems like he's growing into becoming a good person. Regrettably, he's already talking about online forums and he's like, what, mentally 10 years old? If he's on Reddit already, he's cooked. There's no hope for him. But for now, he's in the chaotic good category. Shrinking Ray is kind of like Duplicate. Whoops, there's a mob at my door. Shrinking Ray is kind of like Duplicate if she was self-aware. She realizes she isn't cut out to be a superhero, but doesn't try to take the moral high road on anybody. She just wants to live a normal life instead, contributing to society in another way. Her ability to be honest with herself and her shortcomings is what makes her a way better person than Duplicate. Brit is a superhero who organizes other superheroes during the Invincible War. He has a pretty good head on his shoulders, and I don't think he's anything other than good. Invincible. He's a very good man with a strong moral code. He is going through a lot and doesn't really know what's right and what's wrong all the time yet. Sometimes he makes wrong decisions, but he never makes evil decisions. And considering how many mistakes he makes, the fact that he hasn't accidentally done something evil yet is kind of incredible. As he continues to learn and grow, he will get smarter. Eve is a little bit more mature and has a more cohesive moral code, but a lot of what I said about Invincible can be said about Atom Eve. She makes mistakes but goes above and beyond when it comes to helping people, also lawful good. It's probably time for Black Samson to hang up the cape. Well, the superhero cape, not the barber cape. He's also a barber in the comics. Sorry for spoiling the entire show by mentioning that. He's one of the weakest superheroes working for the Guardians of the Globe. There are probably several heroes more qualified for his position, but he's one of the best people in the show. He's been saving lives for a long time and wants to continue doing that for as long as he can. He's also a great teammate to the Guardians, trying to bring them together and understand them. Rexplode is not as chaotic as people will say. He does break the rules, but the rules he breaks aren't serious. It's stuff like, I'm going to drink on the job even though I'm not supposed to, or I'm going to order a delivery pizza to the Pentagon. He's usually pretty level-headed. The only time he loses his cool is immediately after having half of his brains blown out. He did cheat in one of his relationships when he was a teenager, but he's on good terms with her now and doesn't really try to get back at any of his exes. He's also definitely gone through a lot of character growth and done enough good to look past that. Of the Guardians of the Globe, he was the most willing to sacrifice himself to save others. That's what matters the most. He's firmly good. It's funny how there really isn't an argument against the fact that the characters whose introduction was them stealing the Declaration of Independence are good. Well, actually watching the tapes back, that security guard is 100% dead, but what they did for a justifiable reason. To stop an evil dictator who had enslaved humanity and was killing thousands of people every day. They are willing to do all types of wacky shit to get the job done. They kidnap a superhero with a time machine. Definitely remarkably chaotic. I wish these characters were old enough for Nicolas Cage to voice him, but Zolo Maridueña did a great job. Robot is definitely self-serving. He's done more to get with Monster Girl than he has to save lives. You know, his job. He stole DNA from a coworker to clone a 15-year-old body so he could be roughly the same age physically as Monster Girl. He's gotta be a somewhat good guy because eventually everyone else just looks past this. But believe it or not, I don't like his vibe. He's definitely playing some kind of game, and Black Samson has picked up on it. For now, I'd say he's chaotic neutral, leaning towards good. Adam Wilkins lives by a very strange code that he's imposed upon himself, and not all of it is bad, but some of it is. I mean, it's definitely implied that he hits his wife. He pretty much only communicates by yelling and hasn't been supportive of anybody else in his family doing anything. He also feels insulted if anybody else tries to provide. It's not like, oh, you didn't need to do that. It's more like, oh, why would you dare do that? Definitely a very unpalatable personality. Because of the rules he imposes upon himself, I'm gonna say he's lawful, leaning towards evil. At this point, D.A. Sinclair has technically done more good for the world than evil. He's still an evil man. The only reason he's doing good is because he gets to do what he loves, and the moment he steps out of line, he goes right back to jail. Then he can't take his girlfriend to the movies anymore to watch the films that speak to him. You know, like Saul and the Human Centipede. The fact that he tortured innocent people by experimenting on them and then killed them doesn't weigh on his conscience at all. He might be the most deranged person on this list. Not the most evil, but up there. I wonder if Conquest ever stopped to think and realized that he deserved to be alone. He goes around killing people the Viltrum Empire tells him to, but he doesn't even care about the Empire. He spent thousands of years destroying and killing people, and yet he's upset that people don't want to be around him. Here's a thought, man. Maybe they're worried that they're next. One of the most evil characters in the show easily. General Craig, or Krieg. I'm not sure if his name is a reference to the fact that Viltrumite names sound like human names but are spelled differently, or if it's just a German word for war. I double checked, and maybe I missed it, but I've not heard anybody say his first name in the show. They all just call him General. Anyway, he's a military leader for the Viltrum Empire. You don't really get any more lawful evil than that. He definitely has depth to him, he respects Omni-Man's legacy and those who came before him, and he wants to establish some kind of peaceful relationship with Earth. But it's very clear that his threats of killing millions aren't empty. Isotope is a pretty normal villain. A henchman. A goon, if you will. He's worked his way up in organized crime but never ended up at the very top. He's willing to turn on people, but only if he's completely convinced that he can win. Other than that, he knows the rules and he doesn't push boundaries. Kind of evil, kind of abides by a code, definitely not near any of the extremes. Amber is just a regular person. They were a bad girlfriend when they were 17. She gets a lot of hate. And honestly, I think it's because a lot of people who are watching the show are around the age where they're experiencing heartbreak a lot. But being a bad romantic partner isn't really a cardinal unforgivable sin. If we just had season 1 to work with, I wouldn't say she was a good person, but she's pretty mature and normal now. There isn't really much else to say here, I just don't see her as evil. Monster Girl is one to stand up for who she believes is right. She sacrificed a lot being a hero, and we know that if not a little emotionally unstable at times, she is a good person. Maybe some would say she's chaotic, and Rex, who also isn't one to follow every rule and is Monster Girl's drinking buddy. Honestly, I'd like to see any two people try to outdrink Monster Girl and Rexplode.
Hey, I have an idea for what our next video should be.
No. While Monster Girl surrounds herself with chaotic people, the curse that comes with her powers keeps her pretty grounded. I'd say she's neutral good. Multipol is an assassin, and yes, that does mean he's a bad guy.
You're never gonna let that slide, are you?
Nope. He was raised the exact same way as Duplicate, and instead of being a superhero, he kills people for an organized crime ring. There isn't really much to say here. He's evil. Art is the closest we get to just a chill guy. He works with superheroes constructing and designing their suits, and is also available for friendship and advice if needed. He's helped talk Mark and Debbie through some pretty hard times. Sometimes his feelings will understandably get in the way of his morality, like nobody blames him for being too afraid to tell anybody that Omni-Man killed the Guardians of the Globe, but I can't put him in the highest corner of lawful good because of that. Magmaniac and Tether Tyrant, the supervillain couple. They try to avoid hurting people whenever they commit crimes, and it's usually just theft, but they're still running around committing crimes. They try living normal lives, but they just aren't cut out for it. They likely have avenues such as working as superheroes. Cecil has been known to reform people far worse than them, but once things don't work out for them, they just immediately go back to a life of crime. They are deep into it, have no money, and once you're in that life, it's pretty hard to get out, but that's an explanation, not an excuse. They're pretty close to true neutral, leaning towards evil. Damien Darkblood, the Season 3 post-credit scene mystery man himself. That is the only reason he's on this list, by the way. But guess what? He's a demon. Demons are evil. They serve their master. They do lawful evil things. They're lawful evil. I'm glad we were able to end things off on an easy one. So here is the final list. Screenshot it, argue with it, post it in a group chat with psychology majors, and see who gets out their 5-paragraph response first. Be sure to check out Time Pizza's video, link in the description. Thanks for watching, subscribe you bumasses, and goodbye.